Remind students Rome wasn't built in a day. If you want to make the Guinness Book of World Records, it takes time to grow the world's longest fingernails, the world's longest mustache. Translation? Baby steps. Folks, we need to learn to enjoy the journey. One of my favorite movies of all time is The Shawshank Redemption, starring Morgan Freeman and Tim Robbins. And Andy and Red are sitting there talking one day, and Andy looks at Red and says, "You know what? You can get busy living or you can get busy dying." I see so many educators every single day who have made the decision to get busy dying. I am challenging you today to make the choice to get busy living. And laugh at yourself, because you ain't all that, and neither am I. And if you think you're all that, try teaching kindergarten for 1 week. They'll set you straight. I'd be teaching, and I'd get a question from a little one in the back. I'm like, "LaShonda, question." And she's like, "Miss Brassell, when are you going to trim your nose hair?" "This afternoon. Thanks for bringing that to my attention, LaShonda." I ain't all that. Bill Moyers, the famous television commentator, he used to be an advisor to President Lyndon Johnson. He's also an ordained minister. So the president asked Mr. Moyers to say the blessing one night before dinner. Mr. Moyers bowed and started saying his blessing, and President Johnson said, "Speak up, man, I can't hear you." Mr. Moyers looked up and said, "I'm sorry, sir, I wasn't speaking to you." You ain't all that, Mr. President. Oliver Wendell Holmes, Supreme Court Justice, was walking home from work one night, ran into a 9-year-old girl on the street, talked to her for 5 minutes. As she was walking away, he looked down at her, smiled, and said, "Now you can go home and tell your mommy you spoke to Oliver Wendell Holmes." And she smiled back at him and looked up and said, "And you can go home and tell your mommy you spoke to Mary Catherine Brown." You ain't all that, Mr. Supreme Court Justice. It reminds me of one of my favorite stories of all time. Winston Churchill's mother was a contemporary of Queen Victoria, and she knew every important person of the day. She was once asked about the difference between Prime Minister Gladstone and Prime Minister Disraeli. Her response is one of the most illuminating ways all of us should aspire to live our lives. She said, "Well, whenever I left a meeting with Prime Minister Gladstone, I left feeling like, wow, he is the most interesting person that I have ever met. But whenever I left a meeting with Prime Minister Disraeli, I left feeling like, wow, I am the most important, amazing, and interesting person that he has ever met." What are we doing each and every single day to make the people around us feel important? It's our job to make the people around us feel important each and every day.